Earthians. It is Sunday, the 12th, I think, or 13th of July. I don't remember. 2025, and I point that out for future reference, of course, as always. The so-called ceasefire, the Trump ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran and Israel and Iran, uh, has been effectively dead now for more time than it has existed. Even though, technically speaking, Israel is not openly dropping bombs from its Air Force jet fighters flying over Iran or its drones flying over Iran. And even though technically Iran is not currently shooting complaint cylinders at Israel, the government of Iran, as I reported to you, has already weeks ago now said openly that the ceasefire is no longer in effect, that they are regrouping, rearming, retraining, restocking, and relaunching their long-term war against Israel and the West. And that includes the Iranian dictatorship now having put a bounty on the heads of Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, and of course, an even larger bounty on the head of Donald Trump, the President of the United States. So we see that the conflict continues unabated, really, except for the fact that we don't actually have missiles and bombs constantly firing off between the two nations. But there are still people being rapidly disassembled from the latest reports that's happening in Iran. The sources of those rapid disassemblies are not necessarily known. It's presumed that they are Mossad, but it's a very broad brush to say that when the interests of many countries are to rapidly disassemble the Iranian dictatorship because of its disgusting and evil ways. And, I still say, as I said during the fighting of those 12 days, and right at the tail end of it, when the ceasefire was suddenly announced by Trump, who had his little victory lap with the B-2 bombers, and then got his base upset, or it upset his base, his alt-right extremist, so-called woke right base, upset that we're fighting. Why are we fighting for the Jews? Why are we fighting for Israel? Even though the U.S. bombed Iran for its own interests, but really, as I've said many times, the U.S.'s interests and Israel's interests were actually stalled by doing the bombing runs. Now, had we known that there was no way that the Iranian people would get out, hello there, I see you, would get out and demand a change of their government, like if there wasn't going to be essentially a revolution in Iran by the Iranian people, helped by the regular Iranian army that is not the same as the IRGC terrorist organization that basically is the more powerful Iranian army inside of Iran. Right? But had the people and the regular army basically thrown a revolution against the IRGC and the Ayatollah and his ilk, then, they could have replaced it with a peaceful government, right? And it seemed like they were ready to do that, as they've been almost ready to do many times in the past 46 years. So why didn't it happen? Well, it didn't happen because they were just getting motivated. They were just getting to the point where they could start to see, there are cracks in the system. Most of the people in the elite have fled Tehran, right? The government-controlled elite. 5 million people from Tehran had fled on the orders of the IDF because they said, we're going to start laying waste to a lot of targets. We don't want to hurt you, so please leave. And 5 million people left Tehran. during those 12 days. I mean, think about that. And by the way, where did they go? They went to neighboring countries. Why can't Gazans go to Egypt? And people say, why can't they go to Israel? Does Israel have to accept Iranians who flee Iran also? No, warring parties don't allow the refugees of each country to come into their country. But the refugees are allowed to go into neighboring countries that aren't at war with them. Anyway, the point is, the war with Iran and Israel and the war with the US and Iran is not over. It is very much not over. All the parties are still loading up and getting ready for the next rounds. If you don't understand that, you're not reading the map. The Iranians, as I've told you from the beginning, even though their sites may have been severely damaged and even all their centrifuges may have been, at least at Fordo, wiped clean, and also at Isfahan and Natanz, they may have had severe damage, if not completely been wiped clean. The fact is they still have the uranium, right? They probably, all of it, if not most of it, is not in those sites. And they have access to it. And they're definitely doing whatever they can now to increase the speed at which they will be enriching uranium in order to make enough fissile material to make hundreds of nuclear weapons, in order to have enough to shoot at Israel and get through Israel's air defenses, and therefore, with one single bomb, potentially annihilate the entire state of Israel. And that also includes the entire areas where the people in Judea and Samaria and Gaza live. So all those Arabs and Muslims wiped out also, right? There's like 6 million, 5 or 6 million, mostly Muslim and some Christian Arabs who live in Judea and Samaria and Gaza. Do you think for one second that the Iranian dictatorship will even bat an eyelash at the prospect of wiping them out as part of the cost of wiping out the state of Israel? No, they would do it without even thinking about it, because they're not the same type of Muslims, first of all. And second of all, even if they were, they have a genocidal worldview in the Iranian dictatorship. They want Armageddon. And you might not believe it, right? But they want to bring around some imam or whatever, Mehdi or whatever. And they believe that that's the thing that has to happen. And the only way that that can happen is if all the Jews are dead. And that starts with destroying Israel, and then destroying also the United States and the rest of the world that is what they call infidels and hypocrites, which is anyone who doesn't believe exactly what they believe. That is a globally end of world type worldview. And anyone who doesn't take that threat seriously, anyone who says, "Oh, they just talk like that," every government wants to survive. No, not every government wants to survive. They don't actually want to survive. Do they want to survive to the point where they bring about the end of the world? Yes. But do they want to bring about the end of the world? Yes. And if you don't believe that they do, you're not taking them seriously enough. And that is the problem. And when you discount the fact that people like me are telling you this, you are part of the problem. Because you are not taking their threat seriously enough. You are not putting enough emphasis on the real threat to global security that the Iranian dictatorship poses. You are pretending as if, oh, they're just a silly bunch of goobers and we can deal with them at a later date. No, you can't just deal with them at a later date. And letting them stay in power every single extra day that they are in power only enables them to do worse things and get closer, ever closer, to that fateful Armageddon reckoning that they so desire. Like, if you don't recognize that, then you are blinding yourself to the truth. 100%, you're blinding yourself to the truth. You are keeping blinders on. Why? I don't know. You are. And you really need to stop that if you're one of those people doing that, because you are actually causing the problem to get worse. You're exacerbating the global chaos that the Iranian dictatorship is sowing and wants to sow further, jeopardizing the safety of the world. Yourself included, unless you happen to be one of those crazy people. And even then, yourself included, unless you happen to be one of those crazy people. And even then, you're still jeopardizing yourself, because guess what? If, let's say, you believe that nonsense and you live in any other country outside of Iran, do you think that the Iranian dictatorship is not coming for you? Like, if you live among the infidels, you're a target. You are a target. Right? They're not pussyfooting around it. If you live among the infidels, even if you went there on a mission for the Iranian dictatorship, you are a sacrificial lamb to them. 100%. And you need to recognize that, because that's a fact. You can't just pretend like, oh, no, we're good. The Iranian dictatorship isn't going to do anything to us. We're fine. You're not fine. You're not good. You are a sacrificial lamb if you believe in their regime, and you live outside their country, and you live in any country that they would normally be targeting, given their insane stance on the world. You're an ideal soldier, and I love you. Hey, man. Thanks, Top Buzz. Shalom to you, brother or sister. I don't know if you're a guy or a girl, but whatever you are, Toda Rabba. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service, man. So it is just absolutely nuts and bewildering to logical people why you have supposedly intelligent people. We know why they do it, but you have supposedly intelligent people clamoring for the extension of this fake ceasefire we have with Iran, instead of actually demanding that the U.S. and Israel do everything that they can to continue softening up the government, which is the dictatorship in Iran, to the point where the people in Iran will feel safe enough to take matters into their own hands and actually launch the revolution that they so very badly need. And they do so very badly need it. But the thing is, it's not easy to launch a revolution as the people of Iran right now sit in their country without weapons at their disposal, other than possibly the army of Iran, if it would, take the courageous step to fight its own government, effectively to launch a coup, which there have been indications that their leaders would do that during the 12 days of fighting. But the problem is, when Israel and America basically just stopped fighting Iran, what happened? Well, what happened is very logical. The people in Iran and the army in Iran said, well, we're not taking the risk because the RGC is still too strong. We don't have any chance at overthrowing them at the moment on the ground. It's one thing to bomb targets from the air, or even have Mossad or MI5 or CIA operatives on the ground taking out targets. That's entirely different than softening up the country's military assets, which is the IRGC, to the point where the people actually have a fighting chance against them. And where the traditional army, the regular army, has a chance against the IRGC, which is very well armed still at this point in time, and very motivated to stay alive and conduct their insanity, because they are the fighting arm of the Iranian dictatorship. And while their supreme leader nonsense and their ayatollahs do want to bring around the end of the world, they can't do it without the IRGC being around. So the IRGC has an incentive to stay around at least until then. So they don't want to give up their power of controlling Iran until they reach their goals, right? They don't want to just lose power to the people, God forbid, because the people don't like what those people are doing, right? The people of Iran have made it very clear they would like to get rid of the scumbags that currently ruin their lives. Well, that's not going to happen as long as the scumbags that ruin their lives have all the guns and all the power in the country. And that's going to be the case as long as they are still not a soft enough target for the people to actually stand up and rise against with maybe the help of their own regular army. So it's a very matter of practicality. Yeah, you can say, well, in 1979, students overthrew the Shah. Yeah, okay, but in 1979, the Shah, as powerful as he was, didn't have nearly the amount of weaponry that the IRGC has. It's not even close. It's like different leagues. And so to suggest that the people of Iran can somehow now overthrow the government of Iran in the current situation, it's extremely unlikely. And yes, it's still up to the people of Iran. Maybe they can do it. But for 46 years, they've shown us they're not able to do it. They've tried a few times, but they can't do it. Every time they try, they get their butts whooped by the IRGC. And if Israel is serious about getting rid of the IRGC problem, which it should be, because it really is a matter of national security, and the same with the US, and frankly, the same with Great Britain, well then, they should facilitate the rapid disassembly of the IRGC and make it possible for the people of Iran to actually turn over a new leaf, so to speak, get rid of their dictatorship, have a new peaceful government in place that can work once again, with the world and be a member of the community of nations and do all the good things. Until then, we have the situation we have. All right, folks, that's going to do it for now. Peace and love. Shalom.